I mean, there can be highs and lows, and especially being a young woman in what I'd consider a fan base of older people since the movies have been out so long. And not only that, but just being a young woman in an industry that's, if we're being completely honest, male dominated can be scary. And there can
For
be
sure.
expectations that are put on you that wouldn't be put on to someone of the opposite gender.
This is a Pink Boots production.
We're here to laugh, we're here to cry, we're here to share what's deep inside. But on all the days, all the time, we are more than you see.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to More Than You See, where Shelley and I have conversations with creatives about their mental health journeys. As a reminder, we aren't licensed practitioners or therapists, but hopefully in sharing our own struggles and victories, we can help you feel a little less alone and add some tools to your mental health toolbox.
We are so excited to have Vivien Lyra Blair on today's episode. She has been acting since the age of 4 and has been seen in the Netflix films Bird Box and We Can Be Heroes. She also plays young Princess Leia in the Disney Plus hit series Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's a lot of pressure on a young artist. She is here to share her experience and mental health journey as a young artist in the industry and navigating adolescence. So let's welcome her now.
Viv, hi. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, it's so exciting to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. How are you doing today? We like to start off by asking people how they're doing, but not just on a surface level. How's it going? How are you feeling?
I'm all right. I think I'm in kind of a pretty good mood today. I had lunch with my friend, which was nice. I was working yesterday, which is always fun. So it was a late night, but a fun one. And finals are coming up in school, which is always a little nerve-wracking, but I'll be glad to be done with school because I'll be a freshman in the fall semester. So it'll be nice to have a little bit of a summer before high school.
That's so crazy.
And
How
you
are you
sound-
feeling about going into high school?
It's terrifying and exciting and all the things at once, because there's a part of me that's like, well, it's one step closer to being done with school altogether, and that'll be cool. But then there's also a part of me that's like, it's one step closer to being done with school altogether, and I have no idea what life is going to be after that. Like, I have none of that planned out. Like, I have no idea.
Viv,
So,
let the adults tell you that we still don't have it figured out as well. So if I can alleviate that off of your plate, that you don't have to have it figured out right now and just enjoy the time of high school, that's what I will impart on you.
yeah.
For sure. I mean, I'm excited to have you, Viv, because I know you as a person and as a lovely human as you are, but you've been in this industry now for, probably, Shelley, how long have you been in the industry?
I've been professionally in the industry for 13 years now, which is probably about how old Viv is.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
I'll be 13 in like 2 weeks. So
Early birthday.
Yes, I'm very excited, and that will also, I believe, be around the anniversary of when I started acting, since I started acting right after I turned 4, like same month. So, in June, I'll be coming up on 9 years of being in the industry.
Do you remember what your first acting role was?
Oh, yes. My first ever project was actually through Emma. It was a project called Band-Aid that was a director who was friends with their family, and they needed a little kid, and Emma did not want to do it. And so they were kind of asking about me, and I was like, yeah, I'll try it. I love like creative stuff, and I'd always been into that kind of stuff. So, I was always the kind of kid to not be able to just play family without there being some complicated storyline about an alien invasion. So I was very excited for that and wanted to try it, and I had so much fun. It was just overall such a fun day that I told my mom I want to do it again and again and again. And so she got me into acting classes, and the teacher told her to get me an agent, and she did. And then everything kind of snowballed after that. So I booked Waco, and then I booked Bird Box. I was maybe 6 when it came out. So it was like my first big project, because that was like a bigger movie, and that was the first time that people started coming up to me in public and being like, "Oh my God, are you the little girl from Bird Box?" And I'd be like, "Yeah," I was not used to that, but also I kind of was, because I was a very curious child and I always wanted to talk to people. So even before I started acting, my mom used to tell me that people would just stop her and be like, "Can I take a photo of your kid?" And so I'd always kind of been in front of the camera, and that was where I felt most at home. So when that started happening, I was so excited. And then I booked the We Can Be Heroes, which was super fun. And it was during COVID. So I didn't actually get stopped in public a lot because I didn't go out in public a lot during 2020.
Sure.
And then by 2021, I was already filming Obi-Wan because I believe I was auditioning for Leia by the time Heroes came out. And so my online following grew quite a bit during that time. And so that was when I first started to become like a celebrity, if you will, that people like were interested in when Obi-Wan came out. I think my mom brought up a really good point, and she says sometimes that people will notice me, but they won't come up and talk to me because they feel weird coming up and talking to a kid. Apparently, people don't have those same boundaries with adults, but with kids, there's more there. My mom notices it more than I do, because sometimes I'll just be happily walking around with a friend or something, and I will not notice it all. And then my mom will come to me later in the call and be like, "There were like 3 people that recognized you." And I just don't notice it unless it's like blatantly obvious. And so people ask me, "What's it like to be an actor? Is it weird?" But it's just kind of cool. I grew up in the industry, so none of this felt weird. Like, none of the stuff I did or said ever felt strange to me because it's how I'd been my whole life. So whenever I talk to friends about their kind of normal school experience, it's so much different than what mine was. One of my favorite moments was at a con. Somebody asked me, "So what's it like to be a child actor?" And I said, "Well, I've always been a child up to now, and I've kind of always been an actor, so I don't really have anything else to compare it to."
I just have a quick question for you, Viv, because it's one thing to be an actor and it's one thing to be a child actor, but it's another thing to step into the role that is, I mean, Shelley, were you a Star Wars fan growing up?
I wasn't really a Star Wars or a Star Trek watcher, but I do enjoy and appreciate the movies. I've seen most of them once. So I know the world and I think it's so cool, but I was always really into musicals, obviously. So if they make a Star Wars musical, call me up.
They probably have.
They probably
Star
have.
Wars. Star Wars for me, I remember my 9th grade English teacher who was this wonderful man, Mr. Gugino, Patrick Gugino, shout out. And when he found out that I hadn't seen any of the Star Wars movies, he literally was like, "Deborah, you have no more homework for the next 2 weeks. Here is all of the movies. You have to watch them and then write a paper on them. That is now your homework." Because for him, he was such a huge nerd. And he was just like, "This is a part of our culture. And you have to absorb it," which
That
I
sounds
just
like the
loved.
best homework ever.
I mean, he is one of the reasons I've studied English at Berkeley.
Viv, do
was
you
because
get
of
homework
him.
like that? Do you get cool homework like that? Or is it just math problems?
Yes, actually, I do have some cool homework. One of my assignments right now I have for a final project for film class is I have to make a stop motion movie that's between 30 seconds and 3 minutes. So I have a bunch of little paper characters that I'm working on.
I
That's
love
so
it.
cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, did you have any anxious feelings playing a character that is such a huge icon to a generation? How did that feel, thinking about stepping into that?
Oh yeah, I was terrified. I was this little tiny 9-year-old in this giant fan base, and I was terrified that this was such a beloved character and such a beloved actress too that had originally played her. I didn't want to do anything that could possibly dishonor her legacy. So I was like so terrified, and still am, honestly. Like, still in interviews I get terrified that I'm gonna like say the wrong thing. And I have before. There was a whole recent thing with a clip I had said in an interview that had been taken out of context, and now a bunch of people hate me. But it's kind of terrifying constantly that I have giant fan base that I feel the need to please, and it's a fan base that's existed for as long as my parents have been alive, really. Not even like since I was born, but since my parents were born. It's been such a large fan base that it's terrifying to be a part of the film series that these people worship, you know?
What do you do
how does
in those processes to calm yourself down or help alleviate that pressure, thinking about all those fans that are watching you or looking forward to seeing your take on this wonderful character?
Well, I love my friends because I have a lot of friends who either, like my friends Emma and Samantha, knew me before I started acting, and friends like Bella are actors, so they kind of know the feeling. So I have a lot of really great friends who, like, either will just not talk to me about it. I remember when I was at Emma's birthday party, when I first told her I was in Star Wars, she was like, "Cool, what's that?" She was happy for me no matter what, because she's always been my best friend. And same with Samantha, she's known me, and she's also does like auditions and acting and stuff. And so I have friends like that who they know me for me and not just as Vivien Lyra Blair. They know me as Vivi, you know. And then I also have friends like Bella who we help each other out with self tapes and stuff, and so she gets the same feedback that I may be upset about, so she lets me be upset about it and is upset with me, or she's happy for me and I'm happy for her. And I definitely had to deal with before people only wanting to be my friends so I can introduce them to my agent and get them into the business. So I always be careful with newer friends, but I love that I have friends I can trust. They're always able to calm me down because honestly, it's just easy to remember that this stuff overall doesn't affect my daily life. The people I hang out with and the things I do and myself are what's actually going to matter in the long run. And so it's always nice to have that friendly reminder. And also, if I ever get like super in my head about it, and trust me, I have before, I really like sour candy because it brings me back down to earth, you know? It's like, I actually got that tip from an art teacher that I really loved, and she told me whenever she gets panic attacks, she just eats Sour Patch Kids.
I've heard this. I've heard if you have something sour or put a lemon in your mouth, that it'll kind of shock your system and it be able to ground you and bring you back to the present. So that's a great tip. And it's just
so
amazing
cool
to hear you speak as a young woman in this industry in a very grown-up environment. And obviously, since you've been doing this your whole life, and like you're saying, you don't really know a different world. I know that there's going to be a lot of people listening to this episode that are much older than you, that are going to take wisdom that you have already gained in such a short amount of time, which is really cool. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there can be highs and lows, and especially being a young woman in what I'd consider a fan base of older people since the movies have been out so long. And not only that, but just being a young woman in an industry that's, if we're being completely honest, male dominated, can be scary. And there can be expectations that are put on you that wouldn't be put on to someone of the opposite gender on your same level or age grouping. And that can be difficult to deal with, to hear feedback that you know wouldn't be given to any of your male friends. And that can be kind of the lows, in my opinion. But there's also such good communities for young women in the industry and so many inspirations that I've met and people who kind of protect me and give me all these different wisdoms that can help me through difficult times. And I'm so grateful.
Who are some of your biggest inspirations, you'd say?
Well, I love McKenna Grace. She was mentored as a young actress, and she's kind of been like a mentor figure for me. And she's so sweet and so wonderful. And I had such a great time being with Sadie Sink on Dear Zoe. She was so sweet. And all the We Can Be Heroes kids, since I was youngest there, kind of shielded me and protected me. I've also had the chance to meet the wonderful Aubrey Anderson Emmons, she was Lily on Modern Family, and we met through a little acting group, and her and Aubrey Anderson have been such inspirations to me. I love them so much, and I have this kind of little group of actor friends that it's a really nice little group I'm learning something new every day.
I'm not going to name names to protect anonymity, but I know that you're in an actor group with some very well-known people.
Yeah.
And I know that the leader of this group recently gave you some really incredible advice because of an experience that you had about not doing something unless it's a full body yes.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to share that, because when you told me that story, I was like, oh, we should all follow that rule.
Yes. It was so sweet because we were on this call and she basically told me, because I had shared the story of where I've met someone who maybe it's their first project on a set or something, and they've been like, oh, I'm in town for another couple of days. Why don't I give you my number so you can text me the photos we got and we can hang out? And I'll be like, yeah, totally. And then they won't talk to me for a week, and then they'll talk to me again and be like, hey, can I get an autograph from you, or can I put you in touch with my friend because she's your biggest fan and she's totally not going to harass you for 2 weeks saying how much she loves your movies. There's that kind of stuff that I've had to deal with before. Then the leader of this group, she told me, just don't say yes to something like giving out your phone number or being friends with someone just because you feel like it'll make them happy, even though you're hesitant about it. Don't do stuff like that unless it's a full body yes for you.
Let me get my notepad to write that down. That was
Yeah.
great.
Right? And I think that it's, especially in the context that you were discussing it, where it's just, we have so many times in our lives where we feel like we should say yes to things. I mean, this is like what my 30s have all been about, was just like figuring out how to say no to things and how to put up boundaries and how to protect myself and my time and my space and my own personal stuff that I don't want to share with people, you know? And the fact that you are learning this so young, first of all, Viv, my heart aches for you a little bit that you are experiencing this so young, because dang it, I want you to just have sunshine and rainbows and not deal with terrible assholes for many more years. But I also think that there's something really special and wizened about you that you are going through these experiences. But I'm just curious, when stuff like this happens, either on set or stuff in your personal life, do you talk to your mom? Do you have a therapist that you talk to, if you want to share that? What do you do in order to process those things?
Well, I tend to have a bit of a bad habit of trauma dumping on my friends whenever I see them, you know?
We all
but,
do that.
Like, that's kind of what friends are for, in my opinion. And so
sure.
Whenever I get to be around friends and talking to them about stuff that I've experienced, and I do talk to my mom and like my parents and stuff, but there are certain things that are uncomfortable discussing with my parents, and also when they feel the need to get involved with things that I don't want to get involved in. And discussing it specifically with my friends that are actors is helpful too, because they know what it's like and what is going through your head in those moments. So I think that's kind of my go-to, is just talking to friends. And I do have a therapist, but I don't talk to her very often. I wish I did more, honestly, but it is nice to have friends that you know are there for you.
Let's talk about emotional support kitties.
Yes.
Because I know that you foster many cats. So tell
Do
me
you
about
really?
them. Yeah, I have 5 of my own, and I have 1 lizard as well. And then we sometimes foster kittens. I actually have a little baby here with me right now.
Hi, Kitty.
This is my Salvador. I love him.
Oh, every time I say hi.
I think it was actually kind of funny because there was a story that I only really told once before, like a little news interview I did when I was 6. I said something like, oh, no, I don't have any siblings, but I have 1 furry little brother who I love so much. And I was talking about him. And for some reason, a bunch of people took that out of context and started listing on like famous birthdays sites that I had like a brother that was kept off social media and stayed hidden. They convinced themselves that I had like this unnamed mysterious little brother because they apparently ignored the furry part. And that was just kind of a funny thing I had. But I love my cats, and they're definitely always there for me, and I love getting snuggles. And
do you rescue your kitties, or do you work with a specific organization, or did you find them out in the wild?
We work with a rescue group that operates out of Larchmont in LA, and that's where we got, I believe, 4 of our cats. Our oldest we adopted from our vet's office. they found a little kitty who had followed one of them home and gotten into their car engine when they had it open. And so one of the vets opened their car engine to find this tiny little kitty, and she was this perfect little fluffy angry ball of madness who just was hissy and growly, and they couldn't find her a home, but it was around my birthday, and we met this little kitty, and I was like, she's so perfect, I love her so much. And she just turned 9 in April. And then our youngest two we had taken in from a inexperienced foster who didn't know how often they needed to eat, so they were our little starved babies. And they were just such sweethearts, and my dad actually fell in love with those. That was not my fault. And so we ended up taking in the littlest ones, and now we have 5 cats.
Oh my God. Would you ever consider giving up acting and doing something with animals instead?
Oh, yes. For the longest time, my dream job was being a veterinarian. I don't know if I'm considering that now. I think I want to pursue a degree in psychology and be like a research psychologist during like my downtime in acting, because that's kind of what I want to do academically. But I love my animals, and I'm definitely going to keep fostering and having cats and possibly snakes or lizards during the time that I'm an adult. I've always had animals, and I think I always will have animals. Dogs are difficult for me because I don't think I could give a dog the required attention it needs. I don't want to be friends with people who really, really want to be friends with me. I want to be friends with people who take some coaxing to be friends with me. And that's why I'm a cat person.
You really want to earn that friendship.
I do. That's why I'm a cat person.
That's so cool to hear that you're into psychology and that academically you want to pursue that. I did the same thing in college. I got a theater degree and a psychology minor because they cross over, really. Obviously, it makes sense that you're interested because brain psychology, people's behavior, it all crosses over. What interests you the most in terms of psychology? I know you said the research of it, but is there anything specific to psychology that you like right now?
Definitely abnormal psych. I love studying why people's brains sometimes work differently than other people's brains. That's so cool to me. It's just so fascinating. And I'm considered technically neurodivergent because I am gifted. And so I have my own little quirks. And I think specifically ever since I really came to terms with my brain works differently than other people's, and that's weird. I've always wanted to kind of know why. Like, why does that happen? And the easy answer is that, oh, because my parents are both gifted too, but where did theirs come from? Like, who was the first? And why has that been passed on in the way that it has? Like, it's so cool to me.
How old were you, Viv, when you realized that you think about things differently than other people?
Well, my mom knew from a very young age of me because she was initially going to enroll me in public school, and when she went to, the teachers told her, you can't put her here. She won't thrive in this kind of environment. And so that's how I became a homeschool student. And I remember trying to do the math in my head and being like, if you start school first grade when you're 6, second when you're 7, third when you're 8, why am I doing third grade stuff at 4? I would try and figure it out because I didn't understand really that there wasn't a normalness there. And I knew that I was smart and I was proud of it. I skipped a grade, and around then was when I knew that I'm definitely smart, but I didn't really treat that as a neurodivergence until I started working with gifted and neurodivergent coaches who told me that there was actual chemical stuff in my brain that was different from some of my friends. And that was something that was weird to me because I'd always just considered myself like a little bit smart, like a little bit nerdy, and I hadn't really pieced together that there was something deeper than that. And so it became such an intense fascination after first kind of denying, like, no, I'm just a little bit smart, because my imposter syndrome actually wanted to put me down, being like, no, that's not true. I shouldn't be here. I'm not smart. I just know how to figure stuff out. And I didn't really put all that together until relatively recently, because I started working with those coaches in 7th grade, and I'm graduating 8th grade. So it was pretty recently that I came to terms with it.
So
Deb, when we were in school, or at least I'll speak for myself, when I was in school, we didn't have all this terminology and diagnosis to be able to know if someone was neurodivergent, it wasn't talked about a lot in the way that it's freely talked about at your age now. So I was curious, when everyone deals with something or someone that's a little bit different, or it's just not quite in the normal, there can be bullying, there can be mean kids, there can just be a misunderstanding. Did that happen to you at all with your experience when you found out you were neurodivergent? Or was it just like, this is who I am? And like you were saying, I'm just smart and this is how my brain functions.
I don't know. I've been a homeschool student, so there's never really been many people around me to make fun of me. Like the only people my age that I really talk to are my friends, and my friends don't do that because they're my friends, So
Yes.
I don't really have that kind of stuff. And yes, I have had people say mean things to me before. I think honestly, being in the public eye, cyberbullying is more prevalent, but I inherited my dad's trait of thinking people being mean is just funny. Like, my dad does that sometimes where whenever he'll see someone just being blatantly mean for no reason, it just makes him laugh because he thinks it's really funny. And I've kind of inherited that too, of people will try and say mean things to me and I just think it's so funny. I'm like, what what compels you to just say that? I want to know why you just decided to say that. So I've never really taken it to heart. Just today, I was trying to walk normally, and I was picking my friend up from her homework club so we could go to lunch. And some kid just came in and was like, "Nice glasses." I was like, "What did I do to you? I have never met you a day in my life. I literally just cut these glasses today. What has made you decide that these are so personally offensive to you?" I was like, talking to my friend about it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy. He's just mean to everybody." And then she was like, "And also I have dirt on him, so if he's ever mean to you again, I can make fun of him." I was like, "Okay, fair enough." So like that kind of stuff is it's just funny to me. I've never really taken it to heart, and I've never really I'm not obviously neurodivergent when you're talking to me, because a lot of people don't realize how much of a spectrum neurodivergence is and what is considered neurodivergence. So the only people that I actively talk about it with is my friends. And some of my friends will sometimes poke fun of me for being nerdy, but never in a sincere way.
I think that's
You're
a beautiful response to, if anyone's ever mean, you just say, "Oh, that's so silly." Just calling them silly, because it is funny. I think that's a great trait to inherit from your dad.
You're so wise beyond your years, Viv, because I'm like, the last time someone said something mean to me, which I'm thinking about that, going back myself, I'm like, yeah, they were probably just having a really shitty day. Of course, it didn't have anything to do with me. We forget that it's not personal, that people say weird stuff all the time, and it's about them. It's not about us. And it's just so wonderfully valuable that you are clocking those things now.
And I'm not saying that I'm this perfect being that never takes anything to heart. Yes, I've definitely had people say things to me that stuck with me, because there are definitely deeper cuts that can be made that are more hurtful. But I think the surface level stuff never really gets to me. I have friends that definitely, or maybe not friends, but people around me that I know if somebody said their shirt was bad, they'd change their entire aesthetic and style within a day. So they take that surface level stuff to the heart, and I just don't. If it's a friend saying something that's going to deeper cut, that's going to hurt more. But if it's someone random I don't know saying something very surface level, I just don't register it the same way some other people do.
I want to ask about, obviously, you've done Obi-Wan. I know that you've had a really awesome movie with Mila Kunis.
Goodrich,
Yeah, Goodrich. You just had that come out. So you've definitely had stuff that's been coming out, but the industry is slow for all of us, even for someone with such a prolific career like yours. So how are you navigating that side of things as far as auditions? I know your mom was telling me about something you auditioned for recently where they were like, she's too old for this, but she's too short for this. And it's one of those things where it's like, I can't help either of those things. This is just who I am. So how is all of that going for you?
Yeah, it's definitely slow, and it's slow for everybody. And I think I just have to keep reminding myself of that, because I think when it's been so long, it's hard to not take it personal at some point. When you haven't really filmed a lot in 2 years, it's hard to not start questioning yourself. But it's always good, because whenever I talk to anybody else in the industry, it's reminded that it's slow for everybody right now. It's not me, it's the whole industry. And I definitely had some stuff that I felt like I was really close on, and then it wasn't. But I've been working right now on this indie film in LA, and it's been super fun just being back in that environment. And I worked on that last night was my last day. It was my picture wrap day, and uh, it was a fun reminder to be back on set. That
Do you get really bummed when a project ends?
I think it's very bittersweet because there is something to be said about if you've been working on it for a long time, it's nice to know that you're going to have a break. And so it can be kind of relaxing, but it can also be sad because you're going to miss everybody on that set and you're either going to see them at the premiere and that'll be it, or you're going to stay friends with them, or you're not going to see them for 10 years and then work with them on some random projects later. You never know if you're ever going to see those people again, even if you've been working for them with them for like 6 months. But it is kind of a wonderful feeling. It's an accomplished feeling once you finish the project. It feels nice to know that you accomplished something as large as a movie.
That's so cool. I think a lot of people your age would consider acting or performing a hobby of theirs, and it's your job at the moment, something you do a lot. So, on the reverse side, what kind of hobbies do you have since you are an actor?
Oh, well, I play the piano and I have for 7 years.
Wow.
And I also do aerial silks, which is, if you don't know what it is, it's like Cirque du Soleil. It's like a art of working on a silk. You can look it up and see images. But
Really hard to do.
yeah,
Did that come easy to you?
not initially. My first year, I was terrible at it, but this is my second year now, and I've gotten much better. I'm in the recital this year, so I'm in the show,
Ooh.
which I'm super excited about. But
Congratulations.
a lot of stuff that used to be hard isn't hard anymore, and that's a nice feeling because I think I started a year ago, and I was so new to it, and everybody there already seemed to like know each other, and so I was kind of nervous because I didn't know any of them, and I wasn't really any good. But this year I knew them because I had been in class with them last year, and I had stuff to talk about, and I had friends that I already knew, and I was able to get better at it, and now I'd say I'm pretty good.
How did you find out about aerial silks? Did you see a show? Was a friend a part of it?
Well, I used to go to the dance studio that I go to now, and then I stopped during COVID because it was just kind of weird. They were trying to do Zoom lessons and stuff, but it wasn't really working out for me, and so I quit during pandemic. And then also it was difficult once I booked Obi-Wan. It was kind of a no-brainer because I wasn't gonna have to like do any dance lessons, so I quit. And then like 2 years ago, I was like, hey, I kind of want to go back. I went and I saw aerial silks on the list of classes they had for summer, and I was like, I could try it along with the actual dance, and I loved it, and I thought it was so fun and so cool that I was like, I think that's what I want to do. And so I did, and I started taking regular classes, and I've done that for 2 years now.
It's a really cool story to hear you talk about how you started this aerial silks class and how it was really hard and you weren't that good at it at first, but that you kept trying, and over time you've gotten better. You're going to be in the recital. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that might be nervous trying something new, or if they think something might be too hard for them? What would you tell that person?
Well, I mean, with silks, like all of last year, I would miss a class like every 3 weeks because I just didn't want to go, and it was hard. But I've maybe missed 2 or 3 classes this entire year, and that was just because for one, I was sick, and for the other two, I was working at a premiere or in Mexico for a job. And I think that's the important part is I had gone into it wanting to be immediately good, and I think I hadn't really been able to come to terms with the fact that it was a class. I wasn't supposed to know everything. And that was the whole point of the class, was to learn. I just expected to be good at it. And when I wasn't, I was really irritated and I didn't want to go and I wanted to quit. But I think I had to keep reminding myself that the point was to learn, and to learn in an environment where other people are too. And as I developed better relationships with some of the other girls in the class too, I realized that maybe I was not paying any attention to them or making any attempt to reach out to them, so I just assumed I was the bottom of the class. I had to remind myself that maybe I was seeing myself as less because I wasn't paying any attention to the other people because I just automatically assumed that they were all better than me. And once I realized that none of us were perfect and none of us were amazing at it, it made me feel a lot better.
That's so beautiful, Viv. This is like just the perfect place for us to start winding down the conversation. I'm going to ask you to choose a number between 1 and 30. And then depending upon what number you choose, I'm going to ask you that question that correlates to that number. So between 1 and 30.
13.
Ooh, that's my favorite number. Okay, 13. Name a short, unknown fact about you.
Oh, well, one of the cool little things that I have is I actually have this thing on my palms where it's a simian line. So the line goes entirely across, and it's named after that because I think it's what apes have. And so most people's like will go here and then here, and it doesn't go straight across, but mine goes straight across both hands. I think it's like a 0.5% of people have it or something. Apparently, I think Hillary Clinton has it on one hand, but I have it on both, which is apparently rare. So it's just a cool little thing that I have.
That is an interesting fact. Yeah, now we're all
I've
looking.
never paid attention
I assume
to that.
everyone that's listening is looking at their own hands now. Mine, I have 2 lines on both hands. Wow.
Yeah, like diagonal down.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. And for anyone who's listening, you should watch us on YouTube, and that way you can see
it's
us.
very handsy right now. I assume if you went to a palm reader, they would tell you you're going to live a very long life, very long and successful life.
I did go to a palm reader, and basically the meaning of it is that like your love, your life, and your work lines, I think, are all intertwined. So it basically means that your work is something that you love and it's so important to your life that it intertwines with them. And it means that it's that kind of saying of it's not work if you love what you do. And so it kind of gives this vibe of my work line blends with my life and my love line because it's something I love doing, and so I don't consider it separate, you know?
That's
Love
wonderful.
This. So awesome.
I love
Final quick question. If you can hear my dog in the background, I apologize.
She's excited about Viv's full palm line.
That or a delivery happening, one or the two. Is there any tools that you use to help you if you're having a really bummer day? What do you do to help yourself?
Usually the stuff I like to do is make myself something yummy, like make brownies or cookies or something. You know, I recently learned how to make crepes. I made them for Mother's Day for my mom. They turned out really good, but now I know how to make crepes. So stuff like that. And really honestly, just taking a day to yourself. I have a little bunny hat that when you squish it, it makes the little like hands go over the eyes, and this little Hogwarts poncho too, so sometimes I'll just slip that on that little outfit and get some chocolate ice cream and watch a comfort show to just have a nice relaxing day off.
It sounds like I need to come to your house and get some crepes and have a comfort show watch.
Truly, I was like, Viv, next time I'm having a shitty day, I'm coming over. I have a little hat that's a chicken that also does something strange when you press the thing, so
I need to get one of these
Shelley
hats.
will get you one.
I'll get a hat and we'll all become a team.
Viv, you're just delightful. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was so lovely
really
to talk to
appreciate it.
you. And if you get any wiser, you're going to rule the world. So, and I hope you do with your long lifelines.
Yeah, her and Hillary Clinton together.
Yeah.
I will be voting for you.
100%.
We're so happy to talk to you.
I'm so happy to talk to you guys too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Viv. Thanks, everyone, for listening. My God. Shelley, what did you think? Viv
What a
is
wise woman. She wasn't 12. That's not a 12-year-old.
I know.
That's a 55-year-old giving me life lessons. I was literally taking notes. Like, and what else? What else did you have to say? You wise wizard. My gosh.
mean, truly. And it's one of those things where I'm talking to her parents and talking to her, and I've known her now for a few years, and even just the difference in the last couple years as she's matured. And full disclosure for anyone listening who doesn't know the connection here, my partner's daughter, Emma, is the one that she was talking about, which is her best friend. And little like extra additional fact here is they grew up next door to each other, I believe. So they met when they were babies.
Aww.
Yeah, so they're like lifelong buddies. And so they've been best friends for forever. And So just watching Viv over the last couple years and watching her, I met her right when she was finishing filming Obi-Wan right before it came out. And to just watch her mature even in the past couple years.
Sure. Well, it's
really
so funny. You were telling me her resume as a young artist, and I was a little bit nervous because I had met her briefly, but I didn't really get a chance to know her. And you don't know with certain media training if they're just going to be little robots that show up and say the right thing and say the proper lines. And it was so nice to speak to a legitimate 12, 13-year-old. You can set that spirit, that young person is still there. There hasn't been any like soul crushing in the industry, and I pray there never is for her. Yeah, she's talking about her cats. She's talking about her hobbies. And it just so happens that she has a cool job right now at a very young age that may take her through the rest of her decades, or she might want to stop that at any moment. Who knows? But she's getting this really amazing opportunity, and that she's still a child. I don't want to call her a child, but obviously she's a young adult, and that is still in there. That hasn't been ripped from her.
Well, and her parents do a really wonderful job of keeping her in that. But I think that it was such a reminder to me where I need to embrace my child, like, self
don't we all?
more.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly.
No
you
pressure,
know?
but don't
just,
we
like,
all? Yeah. I think we
right.
all
But like,
remember
remember the like fun, remember the hobbies. Like your hobbies question, I was like, of course that's the perfect question to ask, but I'm like so ingrained in like work and that I just don't even think about hobbies anymore, you know? And that's a problem.
We lose them.
Like,
we lose them as adults. I'm trying to, I just started like bedazzling different clothes right now because
oh my God,
like
that's
it's
amazing.
something I enjoy. It's not being glued to my phone screen or TV screen. It's active, it's utilizing my brain, it's creative, and it has no purpose except to be shiny and cute. But it's not to make money, it's not to make a network connection, it's just for me to sit at home and unwind, and that's all we did as kids. So it is a great reminder.
Yeah.
What hobbies
agreed,
could you
I
do,
think.
Deb? What hobbies could you implement? I mean, that's hard for you. You have a literal infant. That's
know.
hard to implement when you're just trying to get sleep schedules on track.
Yeah, but coloring. Actually, we went to the beach for Mother's Day. And I had like the most perfect Mother's Day ever. I felt so blessed. And like when we were at the beach, Brian actually bought me this little hand watercolor kit where it's just like maybe the sizes of 2 matchbooks put together, little thing of paper, like bound paper, and then this little palette where you like put in watercolors, and then the paintbrush has a water reservoir in it, so you like fill it up with water, and then it becomes a watercolor brush. And so Beckett was sitting on my lap, and I had brought that with us to the beach, and I was just like painting, and it was just like, I was like, I'm in heaven. Like, I'm in my favorite place. I've got my adorable little munchkin on my lap, and I was just fucking watercoloring. And it was like 5 minutes, but I felt so zen and just dialed into my happy place. And it's such a reminder of I don't need to like decompress for 8 hours. I don't have 8 hours to decompress. Having 5 minutes to be like, I'm just going to pull out something and do something for myself for 5 minutes and make this pretty picture. It was perfect.
And from what I've heard from many mothers is that if you can get 5 minutes, that will fill you for the longest time. 5 minutes
For
of
sure.
peace. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You win. You win Mother's Day, Deb.
That's right. Thank you. Well, I hope that all of our listeners can follow Viv. She posts adorable stuff about her cats and all. She's just a wonderful human, and
You
I'm
want
just
some
excited.
life lessons from a wise young artist. Viv is the person to go follow.
Exactly. And I'm excited about next episode that we have is with someone who is also a child actor, started when he was very young, and now he's our age.
Yes.
And so this is like going to be a little more full circle here where we've got Anna, and then we've got Viv, who started when she was 4. And then we've got our next guest who also started young, and we can just talk about the evolution and how it changes people and keeps people the same, and our life lessons and all of the things.
Yes, the different perspectives are wonderful, and that's why we're here.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone so much for listening. Please remember to rate and review and subscribe and all of the things. All of the links for all of that are in the description of the episode, so be sure to check it out.
Be sure to connect with us on Instagram at More Than You See. You can check out past seasons and more episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you want to watch the video version of this episode, you can find us on YouTube. This is a Pink Boots production. We want to give a special thank you and shout out to Jeff Hepner Music for our amazing podcast intro music, to our sponsor, Dermatology Skincare Line, and a massive thanks to our amazing creative team, Jenny Curtis and Katra Parkman, working behind the scenes to bring you new episodes of More Than You See every Tuesday and Thursday. We will see you at the next one.
Please remember to be kind to yourself. Remember that you and everyone around you is more than you see. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.